Ladies and gentlemen, Detroit bass players, DetroitBassPlayers.com, and bass players all around the world. We have with us right now a Detroit bass player, none other than Mr. Jon Liebman. How you doing, man?
All right.
Man, thanks for inviting us out here to do this interview with you on behalf of all of the Detroit bass players, like I said, around the world. Got a few questions to ask you. Things like, first of all, when did you start playing the bass?
When I was 15.
Why the bass?
Because there were more than enough guitar players. And it's the same story as a lot of bass players, but I used to play in a band with my brother, and he said, you know, we got plenty of guitar players, we don't have a bass player, and you can play guitar and not be in the band, or you can play bass and be in the band. And it was a Jewish folk rock band that we had back in the 70s, and we used to play for all these youth organizations all over the Midwest. We used to go to Chicago, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Indianapolis, all over. And we went to the East Coast, we went to the West Coast. We did that for, I think, about 6 years. We made an album, and it was a blast. But the funny thing is, I always wanted to play guitar, and I used to take my guitar along with me on all those gigs. And after the gig was over, I had a Gibson SG. And I used to wear with my buddy who was the drummer, still my best friend to this day, 40 years. And I would just wail on the guitar with him, and we'd have a great time. But you know what happened? Without realizing it, after 3, 4, 5, 6 years, I got pretty good on the bass. And then I started to get serious with it. And when I was in high school, I wanted to join the jazz band. And I told the guy I play bass, and he said, we already have 2 bass players. Too bad you don't play electric guitar, because we need a guitar player. So that was actually when I got the Gibson SG. I'm trying to remember, boy, it's a long time ago, I'm trying to remember the sequence of what happened first. But all of those things happened, and then when I went on to school, I started at U of M, Dearborn, University of Michigan. And I didn't know what I was going to major in, and I just started taking music theory, music history. I sang in the University of Michigan Dearborn Vocal Chamber Ensemble, which I was very proud of. That was fun. And at the end of my freshman year, it was looking more and more like I was going to become a music major, and I needed to pick an instrument. And in those days, you couldn't be a rock major or an electric guitar major, so I figured I had to pick either a classical guitar or classical bass. And I weighed both of them and decided that bass really was a better fit for me and made sense. I had never played an upright. I don't think I'd ever touched an upright. Well, once in high school I saw one, I picked it up, and I was really disappointed that it was just so unwieldy and so impossible to play. I don't know why I expected that I'd be able to play it, because I never had. But actually I borrowed a bass from one of the high schools here in Southfield. Got a teacher in Huntington Woods. His name is Max Janowski. Plays with the Detroit Symphony to this day. He's still there. And I used to take that thing over to his house and started with the samandal and the bow and all of that, and became a music major. And I'm really glad I chose the bass. There are so many more applications that I think you can do. You can play classical, you can play jazz, you can play upright, you can play electric, you can play weddings, you can funk, you can do, you know, studio stuff. Although we lost some of the studio stuff in the 80s when everything went electronic. Us and the drummers, sax players and the guitar players fared pretty well in the 80s, but we bass players and drummers found it a little more challenging, so I got into writing and some other things.
Well, I guess I'm glad you chose the bass, because if you fast forward to today, you got a lot of things going on, so thank you for choosing the bass. But let's back up again. Some of your, once you start studying that bass and taking it seriously and getting educated on the instrument, who were some of your favorite basses, local, or some of your favorite bases, international or influences, mentors? What kind of bass guys can you name for us?
Well, I was about, I don't know, 16, 17. There was a guy named Stanley something. You know what I'm talking about? Stanley Clark.
Stanley Clark.
And when I got into jazz, Ron Carter.
Another Detroit bass player.
That's right, yeah. And, Paul Chambers is another Detroit bass player.
Actually, he sure is a Detroit bass player.
Yeah. And then a couple of years later, when Jocko got some notoriety, I was certainly influenced by him. And I lived in Florida for 6 years, so I got to know him.
You were real close to it.
I got to hang out with him, and that was quite an experience, playing Jocko's bass in his living room and asking him, hey, how do you finger Teen Town? Because I always did it like this. He said, no, man, this is how you do it. I said, that's how you do it? He said, that's how you do it.
Good.
And, boy, who else? You know, the usual suspects.
Right. Same with me. You just named my two favorite of all are, and I don't care how better they get and if they do flips or anything, but my all-time favorites will always be Jaco Pastorius and living Stanley Clark. I don't know why, but those are my favorites.
Oh, there was another guy I had kind of heard of, but had never really heard play. And it was about 2 weeks after I started studying with Max on the upright. And there used to be a little club in the Hyatt Regency in Dearborn called DB's. And there was Oscar Peterson with Joe Pass and Niels Henning Orsted Pedersen. And he scared me to death more than anybody ever. And he was so shocked and dismayed when he passed away in 2005. But he was my favorite all-time upright jazz bass player. He was just phenomenal. My jaw dropped. And that was a small club, and we were sitting pretty close. And he's just, you know, he's not like intense or anything. He was so smooth and laid back, almost like he wasn't even trying. And the music that came, and he was doing things with, you know, what's his thumb doing up here and this down here with the harmonics and everything. And that was just those three, Oscar and Joe and Niels. Boy, they're all gone now. But that was like the textbook way of playing that kind of jazz. Those guys were just incredible, and thank goodness we have all those recordings.
Well, man, some impressive bass players you just mentioned here. Now, also something that's impressive is stuff that you do. Like, you have played with a whole slew of people. I mean, it'd take me like a couple of days to name everybody, but just a couple of people that you had the pleasure of gigging with that we might be familiar with.
Well, when I was down in Miami, I did a lot of the Latin music. I played with Julio Iglesias and Jose Feliciano, and I used to tour all over Central America and South America and the Caribbean, and we did a bunch of shows at Madison Square Garden in New York, and the Greek Theater in LA, and the Shrine Auditorium. There was a guy named Braulio who was he's from the Canary Islands, and he was with CBS International. He used to pack Madison Square Garden and these places. There was a lady named Libertad Lamarque from Argentina who was a world-renowned tango singer. 5 shows at Madison Square Garden, sold out, standing room only. But, well, you asked for people you may have heard of.
Well, I mean,
The Fifth Dimension and...
who I just did an interview with Florence LaRue.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I did a show, Ain't Misbehavin', for 5 weeks with them, and I was the house bass player at the Hirschfeld Theater in Miami Beach. But when I was out in L.A., I hooked up with a band that did a lot with the Dick Clark Agency. So the Drifters, the Chiffons, the Platters, the Coasters, Fabian, you know, and boy, who else? I did a bunch of shows in my. Oh, I was a maniac in Miami. I was doing like 400 to 500 gigs a year. I'd do 8 shows in the theater, and then I'd drive over to Little Havana to the Copacabana or some of the other Latin clubs. I'd take my amp out, and it's still warm from the other gig that I just did. So we used to do all those. But Jackie Mason, the comedian, brought in all these people. Patty Andrews from the Andrews Sisters, and Jerry Vale, and Donald O'Connor, Eartha Kitt. That was a lot of fun. Playing some great bass lines, and Eddie Fisher, and you know, the Ink Spots. That was a lot. Every song's like new, 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 new. Now every song started that way. And boy, I don't know. And then later on, Amy Grant I played with, and geez, who else? I was on Ralph Armstrong's show just a few months ago, and that was a lot of fun. So, who else? Toured with Billy Eckstine, and I did a tour with Buddy DeFranco over Thanksgiving 1985. It was on a cruise ship. So we had to play like 45 minutes a day, and the rest of the time, you know, do whatever you wanted. Yeah.
Wow, man, and I'm sure some more that we're not naming. So, folks, if you want to, if you really want to get into Mr. Jon Liebman, go to
ForBassPlayersOnly.com.
And is that the initials or
FOR? ForBassPlayersOnly.com.
Right, and you can see his bio. This man has done a lot of great work. And speaking of some of your other works, I guess during your playing days, somehow you decided to be an educator. How did that happen?
It was, I think, the first time I was in South America. I was doing a tour with Braulio, who I mentioned before, in Bogota, Colombia. And that was our first or second stop on that tour. And my roommate happened to be the guitar editor for Columbia Pictures Publications, which later became CPP Baldwin, which later became Warner Brothers, which is now Alfred Music Publishing. And I'm just sitting on the bed with the bass, just slapping, just, you know, being funky. And he says, "Hey man, you ought to write that stuff down. You ought to write a book." Write a book? What are you talking about? No, I'm telling you, he had written a couple, he had edited some books, and he was telling me about it, and then we went out. He still remembers to this day, and he says, "I remember we went down and we're sitting at a pizza place on the corner at some intersection in Bogota, Colombia, and we're talking about books and how to write books and how to get them published." And I said, "Okay," and I just put down some notes and put down some more notes, and then, you know, a few months went by, a year went by, some time went by, and I got to the point of, you know what, you're either going to write this book or you're not. You've got all this material. And I put it together and shopped it around. I used to go to the NAMM shows. Well, now I'm back to going to the NAMM shows, but shopped it around to Cherry Lane Music and Hal Leonard and Warner Brothers and a few others, and I got, I don't know, about 3 or 4 offers. And I ended up going with Hal Leonard, biggest music publisher in the world, and they have been very, very good to me over the last 20 years. And I guess I've been pretty good to them too, because I sold an awful lot of books for them. But and then the natural thing to do if you have a hit product, a hit book or a hit record or whatever, is to do a follow-up.
Yeah.
So I had Funk Fusion Bass, which
well, what was the first one called?
Funk Bass. This is my first book, Funk Bass.
Okay.
And good friend of mine, John Patitucci, wrote the foreword.
Great bassist.
Oh yeah, he is incredible. And Will Lee endorsed it, and Rich Appleman, who's the head of the bass department at Berklee College of Music, he's retiring now after 40 years. Stuart Ham, another very good friend of mine. Mark Egan, Neil Jason, Brian Bromberg, another good friend of mine, and Bob Cranshaw, legendary bass player.
Well, I got a plug. I've actually studied under a couple of them, Brian Bromberg and Stu Ham. And the second one was called Bass what?
The second one is called Funk Fusion Bass, which instead of the thumb style slap, it's finger style. So I got Verdine White from Earth, Wind and Fire to write the foreword, and I got Steve Bailey and Victor Wooten to endorse it, and I got Rocco Prestia from Tower of Power. He's a good. Nathan East, Victor Wooten, Abe Laboriel. They all put their seals of approval.
Those guys, they know you, but there's a whole bunch of guys that came up during the era that I came up with. Your books, I mean, it was just like listening to Motown records. Stuff was hot, but you didn't know who they were. So, but your Mel Bay books, your books, and Carol Kay books during the 60s, it's just like Fender bass. That was the only thing that was out there.
Ladies and gentlemen.
And I'm telling you, I learned from that series of books, and I taught out of that series of books. So you've done a lot more with just what you published. I had no idea that you were doing education and that you were CEO here at Specs. I had no idea.
Ladies and gentlemen, assisting on this interview with us is none other than Mr. Reggie Canty.
I'm thrilled to be here, just sitting here with you, man, because some of the things that you've already done, I'd like to try to do. But I waited too late, you know. You get older, and your health starts giving you little challenges and all that kind of stuff. That's what I'm going through right now. But it's not enough for about 4 years. I got real ill, and I couldn't play. And I was completely convinced that I wasn't going to be able to play no more. And then when I started getting better, I started playing a little bit, but I didn't have the fire under me. But when this showed up, it's like somebody put the burner under me and put the gas under me, and I'm meeting all these amazing people. You just have to be one of them. I'm glad you decided to come in and talk to you, man.
You want to hear something really inspiring? I have an interview coming up in a few weeks with a guy named Bill Clements, and he's actually from Michigan. He's from the Kalamazoo area, somewhere around there. And he was a bass player, and he was doing the thing, and he worked in some factory or something, and he was in a terrible accident and lost his right hand.
Oh, boy.
And you should hear him play the bass today with just his left hand. I got a video that I'm going to have on that.
I saw a video of a guy playing out on the street, and he was playing one-handed. He was just playing with his left hand.
Well, he only has a left hand.
That's what I mean.
He's got a hook for a right hand.
I saw that. I can't remember where I saw it.
It's probably the same guy.
I know it's got to be, because it's amazing to see him play. I said, oh, man, look at this.
Yeah, incredible.
Well, you know, it's motivational. These Detroit, I think it's something in the water maybe in Detroit that each one teach one and each one motivates one.
Yeah.
Now that's just two of the books. You have
third one is called Rock Bass. And what I did here, boy, I put everything I had into this book. I just loved this book while I was writing it, and this was my favorite for a long time. I took the 4 or 5 decades, the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, 5 decades, and talked about what was happening in society, in the world, in culture as a backdrop to the music that came out of there. And I've got a whole series of grooves from the 50s, 60s, through the 90s, and then I have a chapter, like I have in the other books too, a chapter for soloing, so all the licks and the stylistic things that are inherent to rock bass. And they've got, some of them have chapters on practicing, an appendix on equipment and basses and amps and strings and all those sort of things. The blues book, I don't know what happened to it. It's I've got it at home, but thought I had one here. Blues bass. And I go through all the different styles of Texas and the Delta blues and Chicago blues and West Coast blues and just the whole evolution of the style, from Blind Lemon Jefferson and Lightning Hopkins and Howlin' Wolf and all the way through to some of the more current guys, Johnny Lang, and that was a fun book. That was I enjoyed that one. Then the next one is called Bass Grooves, the Ultimate Collection. And this one here goes through, I've got a whole chapter on grooves that are blues, and then a whole chapter on jazz, and a whole chapter on rock, and then the next chapter is funk, but the first half of that chapter is, can't remember if the first half is slap and the second half is fingers, or the first half is fingers and the second half is slap. I don't remember, but they're both in there. Then I have a chapter on reggae bass grooves, country, Latin, and then I've got more grooves. So I've got hip hop, disco, punk, gospel, dance, and some other things like that. Will Lee wrote the foreword to this. Will and I have become pretty good friends over the years, and he wrote the foreword to this. And who else did I get to endorse this? A couple that had endorsed some of my other books, but where is it? I don't know. I got Bob Babbitt, kind of a Detroit guy.
Yeah, might as well. Might as well. Did Motown and all that stuff.
Detroit work.
Rocco again endorsed this one, and Brian Bromberg also endorsed Stu Ham. Ralph Armstrong, the aforementioned Ralph Armstrong.
Detroit bass player.
Just hung out with him last weekend, actually, at my niece's bat mitzvah. Ralph was playing.
This is the same.
Benny Rietveld from Santana. He played with Miles. He played with Sheila E. Rich Appleman again, and Alexis Sklarevsky, who's West Coast guy. He was the head of the bass department at the Musicians Institute for a long time, the Bass Institute of Technology. And Steve Bailey. We went to school in Miami together, and we've kept in touch. This is the new book. This is called Bass Aerobics, and it's part of a series of the aerobics. They have guitar aerobics, they have piano aerobics, and drum aerobics. And this just came out a few months ago, and this is really hot. This is really selling very well. Although my brother-in-law was on a trip to, where did he go? Thailand and Hong Kong, and he was in one of those cities. I think it might have been Hong Kong. I have a picture of him holding up my book in a music store in Hong Kong.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, Hal Leonard is great, all through the U.S., Canada, Europe, Japan, Australia, South America, all over Asia. So they've been very good to me. Leland Sklar, I've gotten to know pretty well over the years. He endorsed it. Darryl Jones played with the Rolling Stones. He played with Sting, and he played, he played with Miles. And who else did I get? Dave LaRue from the Dixie Dregs.
Yeah, that's a bad boy. That's a bad boy.
Jerry Jamot. He endorsed this book.
Oh, that's the old school boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did everything.
Alfonso Johnson.
Another old. Yeah, woo. Gosh, man.
Jimmy Haslip.
Left-handed.
Lefty, yeah, left-handed plays. And Kaya Card played with John McLaughlin. Played with Steve Smith, Vital Information. And he's awesome dude, incredible player.
Yeah, that's why I started this piece, is bass players around the world, because you've been working with everybody, man. You got some more books over there that you
one day this just showed up. This is Funk Fusion Bass. I think that's Japanese.
Yes, it is.
I'm not sure. Maybe I have to hold it this way. I don't know. But, so Japanese.
You have to read it this way.
And this is funk bass. I don't know why it's got a different cover, but this is German.
Oh wow, that's Wiedersehen or Gesundheit.
And funk bass has also been translated into French. So French, German, Japanese.
So all of these books, I know some of them are current, but the ones from earlier, are they still in print and still available?
Still selling very strong.
And I know one of the places you can buy them is for bass players only, right?
That's the only place.
It might as well have a monopoly on you.
Okay, I should say that's the best place.
You can get them on Amazon, because you know Amazon get a hold of them.
But Amazon won't autograph them for you.
You see that, folks?
If they do, it's a forgery.
Right.
But I'm happy to say it's in all the guitar centers all over the country, and it's in lots of different music stores. And
it was easy to find even back then. I'm talking about, I was trying to play early '70s when I was still in school. And I remember seeing those books even back then.
You had books back then?
No, the first one came out in '92.
I'm talking about like Mel Bay, Carol Kay.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the basic format, your soft cover book, but it had a lot of information in it.
Okay, so the moral of the book story, folks, is if you got an ideal, don't think, ain't nobody gonna do that. I mean, because look what happens. We living proof right here. If you have an ideal, go ahead and go through with it. Or if somebody try to talk you into it, go ahead and go through with it. Okay, so now from the books, I mean, you started teaching individuals privately, or what happened?
I did some of that. I never really did a whole lot. When I was in California, I did some of that, and I guess I did some in Michigan before I moved away. I haven't really done that much in Detroit. So Detroit is where I grew up, but most of the stuff I've done professionally is when I was in Florida and when I was in California.
That's your teaching
that's when
sites?
I still wasn't even teaching that much. I'm just saying that in general, that's where I was when I did most of my music stuff.
Wow. How did Face for Bass Players Only come about?
I got an email from a kid, I think in England, and he said, Mr. Liebman, I have your books, I love your books, I love what you do, and they've helped me so much. I can't believe there's no JonLiebman.com. I looked on the internet, it's not there. And I went, okay, it's time. That was, I guess, around the latter half of 2008. Okay, it's not too early to start thinking about the internet.
Right.
So I I built a couple of websites just out of guts and passion without having a clue what I'm doing. I'm the first to admit I was just some schmo trudging through how-to manuals and Google and YouTube and whatever I could, and I came up with JonLiebman.com, and I had my books, and I had a little store with up to 20 items in there, which is all I could get at the time. And I'm learning this whole new business, and then it hit me one night. I was reading an article, and it just, another aha moment. As wonderful as I am, it can't be all about me.
Right.
There's got to be compelling content. There's got to be reason for people to come back. I read that article on a Friday night. I woke up Saturday morning. I said, for bass players only. And mulled that over all Saturday, throughout the day. Got up Sunday, bought the name. And I spent another few months, about 2.5 months, building for bass players only. And launched it on June 1st, 2009. And started with interviews. A few months later, I started adding videos. I've got links. I've got a page with 366 dates throughout the year, a birthday. For every date has some bass player's birthday, and a lot of times the day they died also. And I've got, boy, last time let's see, on Facebook, I started that. Now I've got 15,336 followers on Facebook. And
for bass players only, like this page type thing.
And right now, if you go to JonLiebman.com, it'll direct you to for bass players only.
Well, I want you to know that I'm a proud subscriber. I think the piece I'm in is the Bass Club, the free subscribe on the Bass Club, where I get like a email magazine every week or something?
Yeah, well, depending on if there's breaking news, you'll get that. There's discounts on merchandise in the store. There's an email we have every Friday called Bass Players in the News. And every time we have a new interview, which is every week, so every Monday we send out a blast. This week's interview is Ron Carter, Geezer Butler, John Patitucci, Will Lee, who else? Victor Wooten.
Well, man, I tell you, it's kind of surreal for me to be sitting on this side of the camera interviewing the guy who interviews everybody. I feel like I just one-upped you, man.
Yeah, this is kind of strange for me. Nobody ever asked me what to.
So for everybody that's watching this, we can find you on JonLiebman.com.
JonLiebman.com.
We can find you on ForBassPlayersOnly.com.
Yeah.
If we want to just kick it with you on Facebook, what's your name there?
The Facebook page of For Bass Players.
For Bass Players, and then your videos, we can catch those on your For Bass Players Only, because this guy's got endorsements from from everybody in bass. This guy's got it, and you need to check out those interviews as well that he has, because they're very informative. I've watched them myself, so I can vouch for you, John. There's some good interviews and education. All of this is education to me.
Really only one address you need to remember: ForBassPlayersOnly.com, and that's F-O-R, BassPlayersOnly.com.
Okay, so now let's fast forward to today. Whatever the day is, I don't know. I don't even know when we're going to show this. But let's fast forward today. Right now, we're sitting in your office now, and where is this office where we're sitting right now?
We're in the world headquarters of the Specs Howard School of Media Arts in Southfield, Michigan.
Right, and why are you here? What do you do here?
I'm one of the owners, and I'm the chairman and the CEO of the Specs Howard School.
Well, tell us a little bit about what happens here at this Media Arts Center.
Well, we have 3 programs. We have a program in radio, video, film. We have a program in graphic design, and we have a program in digital media arts. And we are a career school. We get right in, and it's hands-on, very, very career-focused, very intense on what you need to know to start enjoying a fulfilling and rewarding career doing something you love to do.
And so this is a wonderful thing that you got going on here at Specs Howard. Is there anything else, man? You know, I don't want to keep you. I know you're a busy man. I mean, CEO and chairman and we up here invading his privacy and stuff. Before I let you go, is there anything else you'd like to say?
Well, again, I told you I don't know if the camera was rolling or not, but I am truly, truly honored to have been approached by you gentlemen to be included in the in your website, Detroit-based players.
Proud to have you, man. That's the truth.
Detroit-based players on Facebook. You are a member on the page, right?
Of course. Isn't everybody?
That's what I'm trying to say.
Or is it for base players?
The ones who don't have the ones who don't have a Facebook page.
I've got some cool things in the works right now for my site, and
break them here.
Yeah, I will. I'll invite you back, and when the time comes when I can make those news items public, I'd be honored to have you be the ones break the news for me.
That's cool.
Sure will be all over the page.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, and Detroit-based players around the world, Detroit-based players again around the world, we have none other than Mr. Jon Liebman, a Detroit-based player, and we'd like to thank you very much. We're honored to be here doing this interview. Thank you very much, man.
Yeah, thank you very much.